Everyone laughed at her, the janitor who said the company was hiding millions. They fired her, mocked her, and left her on the streets. But when the truth finally came out, the world realized who Amara Okafor. The rain poured over the city of Lagos, washing the streets but not its pain. People rushed through traffic, hiding under umbrellas, their eyes fixed on their own survival. Among them stood a young woman named Amara Okafor. Her hair was wet, her sandals torn, and in her hands, she held a folder filled with resumes already ruined by the rain. Amara had once been a top accounting student at the University of Lagos. She believed that with education and hard work, she could lift her family out of poverty. But after her mother's illness, the hospital bills swallowed everything. The company she worked for downsized, and she was left with nothing but memories and debt. Now she stood outside Oasis Holdings, one of the biggest finance companies in the city, a company she had once dreamed of working for. Inside that tower worked Chief Kola Adeyemi, the CEO who had once promised her a job after her internship. When his black SUV stopped at the entrance, Amara gathered her courage. "Chief Adeyemi," she called, stepping forward. "Sir, it's Amara Okafor, from the accounting department. I sent in my application again. I just wanted to—" He looked at her for a moment, then waved dismissively. "Talk to HR," he said. "I don't handle street interviews." His bodyguard opened an umbrella, blocking her completely from view. The car door shut, and he walked inside. Amara stood there, her papers soaked, her pride fading fast. People walked past her as if she didn't exist. She whispered softly to herself, "You can take away everything, but not my dignity." Hours later, as the sky darkened, she noticed a small sign at the side of the building. Cleaner wanted night shift. It wasn't the dream job, but it was a chance. She applied immediately. That night, Amara began work at Oasis Holdings, not as an accountant, but as a cleaner. She didn't tell anyone about her degree. She didn't talk about her past. She just worked. As she wiped tables and emptied bins, she noticed something others ignored: the leftover files, the spreadsheets left open on computers, the financial reports half completed. Her eyes caught unusual patterns: missing entries, duplicated numbers, irregular transfers. Her instincts as an accountant stirred again. "These figures don't match," she whispered to herself. But she shook the thought away. She was just the janitor now. It wasn't her place to ask questions. During her break, she sat alone in the staff cafeteria. A friendly young woman with braided hair smiled and joined her. "You're new, right?" she asked. "I'm Ngozi, front desk." Amara nodded. "Amara, night shift." Ngozi studied her face. "You don't look like someone who cleans offices. What did you study?" Amara smiled faintly. "Accounting. But life had other plans." Ngozi nodded slowly. "Still, you're here. That means something." For the first time in weeks, Amara felt seen. When her shift ended at dawn, she walked home through puddles and traffic noise. Under a bridge, she saw an old woman shivering, holding a child close. Amara took off her scarf and gave it to her. "Here, Mama. Keep the child warm." The woman looked up, eyes filled with tears. "God bless you, my daughter." As Amara walked away, she whispered, "Kindness is all I have left." She didn't know it then, but that same kindness would one day expose the corruption that powerful men had buried for years. Amara adjusted to her new life as the night cleaner at Oasis Holdings. Every evening, she arrived quietly before sunset, wearing the same faded uniform, carrying her mop and bucket like armor. The offices looked different after hours. The bright lights were dim, the corridors silent, the expensive furniture empty of their importance. During the day, this building was filled with people who ignored her. But at night, it belonged to her alone. She cleaned every desk carefully, moving between the departments that once held her dreams. The smell of disinfectant mixed with the faint perfume of forgotten power. Yet Amara's mind was never at rest. Numbers and patterns still danced in her thoughts. As she wiped a desk one night, she saw a folder titled Corporate Transfers, Q2. Curiosity whispered in her ear. She opened it for just a moment. The figures didn't look right. The totals didn't match the revenue she remembered from her internship months ago. She closed the file quickly and looked around. No one was there. She promised herself not to look again. But the next night, when she saw another open report, she couldn't resist. This one mentioned an offshore account under a name she recognized, Kola Adeyemi Holdings, Mauritius branch. The pattern was clear. Money was being moved from the company's charitable projects to private accounts. Millions. Quietly, without question. Amara felt her chest tighten. It was corruption. It was theft. And it was the reason why so many employees had been laid off, including her. But who would believe a cleaner? The next morning, she shared lunch with Ngozi in the break area. Ngozi laughed at a joke from her phone, but Amara's mind was elsewhere. "You're too quiet," Ngozi said. "Is something bothering you?" Amara hesitated. "Ngozi, have you ever noticed strange things around here? Like documents disappearing, or accounts being changed suddenly?" Ngozi frowned. "That's above my level. But I've heard whispers. The finance director, people say he handles secret payments." "Why?" Amara shook her head. "Nothing. Just wondering." She didn't want to drag Ngozi into it. That night, as she mopped the executive hallway, she saw the office door of Mr. Tund Afolabi, the finance director, slightly open. Inside, he was on the phone, pacing angrily. "Yes, the transfer's cleared," he snapped. "The girl from accounting? She's gone. I made sure of it. Tell the chief to relax." Amara froze. Her heart pounded. The girl from accounting, that was her. She stepped back quietly, afraid he might notice her shadow. The next day, she couldn't focus on anything else. The memory of his words followed her everywhere. That evening, as she finished cleaning, she hid a few printouts of the reports she had seen earlier. Just enough to prove what she knew, not to expose it yet, but to keep herself safe. A week later, the storm arrived. During a random inspection, Amara's supervisor accused her of stealing a company tablet. The device had gone missing, and someone said they saw her near the finance office. Amara was shocked. "I didn't take anything," she said firmly. "You can search my bag." They did. The tablet wasn't there. But the tension in the room was thick. Mr. Afolabi arrived minutes later with 2 guards. "Fire her," he said coldly. "We can't keep thieves here." Amara pleaded, but no one listened. She was escorted out of the building, her ID card deactivated before she reached the gate. Outside, rain began to fall again, just like the day she first stood there. She sat on the curb, hugging her knees, fighting the tears that burned her eyes. How quickly people believed lies about the powerless. Hours passed before Ngozi found her there. "Amara, I just heard what happened. They say you stole a tablet?" Amara looked up, exhausted. "They framed me. They know I saw something I shouldn't have." Ngozi's eyes widened. "What did you see?" "Fraud," Amara whispered. "Money meant for charity, stolen. I can prove it. But no one will believe me." Ngozi took a deep breath. "Maybe someone will. I know a journalist. He investigates corruption. His name is Kunal Olatunji. Let me call him." Amara didn't know what to say. For the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of hope. That night, Ngozi introduced her to Kunal in a small cafe away from the city center. He was a calm man with tired eyes and a notebook full of secrets. "You're brave for coming," Kunal said softly. "Tell me everything." Amara explained what she had seen, the files, the accounts, the phone call, and how she was fired. She slid the printed reports across the table. Kunal studied them silently, his face growing darker with every page. "This is serious," he said finally. "If this is true, Chief Adeyemi could face prison." Amara nodded slowly. "I don't want revenge. I just want the truth to be known." Kunal leaned back. "Then we'll make sure the truth is heard. But it won't be easy. Powerful men fight back hard when their masks are torn off." Amara looked out the window. The rain had stopped. The streets were quiet. For the first time in a long time, she felt a strange kind of peace, the peace that comes when you know your path, even if it's dangerous. She said quietly, "Let them fight. I've been through worse." The next morning, Amara woke up in the small room she shared with 2 other women at the shelter. The noise of traffic echoed through the cracked walls. For a few minutes, she lay still, wondering if she had made a mistake by meeting Kunal. Going up against a man like Chief Kola Adeyemi was dangerous. He had money, influence, and friends in high places. But her conscience wouldn't let her rest. She had seen the truth, and staying silent now would make her no different from the people who looked away. That afternoon, Kunal called her. "I've verified the documents," he said. "You were right. The charity account meant for widows and children is being used as a personal fund. We have to move carefully. If they find out what we're doing, they'll try to silence us." Amara felt her stomach tighten. "What do you need me to do?" "Stay low," Kunal said. "I'll gather more evidence. We'll publish the story when we have enough to back it up. If anyone asks about you, deny everything." For the next few days, Amara stayed quiet. She avoided going near Oasis Holdings and focused on finding another job, but no one wanted to hire a cleaner accused of theft. Her name was already on an internal blacklist. She spent her evenings volunteering at a small community center that helped street children with basic lessons. It gave her purpose and reminded her why truth mattered. Meanwhile, Kunal worked quietly in the background. He contacted a source inside the company, an accountant named Benga Ewalai, who had grown disillusioned with the corruption but was too afraid to speak publicly. One evening, Kunal called Amara to meet at the cafe again. His voice sounded tense. "Benga's willing to talk. But we have to meet him somewhere safe." They met in an old printing shop behind the market. The air smelled of ink and dust. Benga sat at the corner table, nervously checking the door every few seconds. "I can't stay long," he said quietly. "Chief Adeyemi has been moving money through fake companies. Every month, millions vanish into accounts in Mauritius and Dubai. The finance director, Tund Afalabi, signs everything. They cover it up with fake audit reports." Amara asked, "Do you have proof?" Benga nodded and slid a flash drive across the table. "Everything is in there. But if they find out I gave it to you, I'll lose my job, or worse." Kunal took the drive carefully. "You're doing the right thing. The country needs people like you." As Benga left, Amara looked at Kunal. "When will you publish it?" Kunal sighed. "Soon. But once the story goes live, they'll know who leaked it. You should be ready for backlash." Amara smiled sadly. "They already ruined my life once. What else can they take?" 2 days later, Kunal called again. His voice was urgent. "Amara, stay inside. The story is going live tonight. My editor wants to run it on the front page." Amara's heart pounded as she listened to the news later that night. The headline read, "Oasis Holdings Scandal, Charity Funds Diverted to CEO's Private Accounts." Within hours, social media exploded. Hashtags about corruption and justice flooded timelines. People were angry, furious that money meant for widows, orphans, and scholarships had been stolen. By morning, journalists surrounded Oasis Holdings. The police announced an official investigation. Chief Adeyemi denied everything, calling the report a fabrication meant to destroy his reputation. But the evidence was too detailed to ignore. Inside the company, panic spread. Employees whispered in corridors. Some deleted files, others tried to distance themselves from the accused. That afternoon, Ngozi called Amara in shock. "Your name is everywhere. They're saying an anonymous whistleblower exposed them. Was it you?" Amara hesitated. "Ngozi, please don't ask. It's safer for you if you don't know." Ngozi paused, then said softly, "Whoever did it, I'm proud of her." Later that evening, Kunal met Amara again. "The story is blowing up. But we need to prepare. People like Chief Adeyemi don't accept defeat easily. They'll try to clear their names and blame others." He was right. Within 2 days, news broke that a warrant had been issued, not for Chief Adeyemi, but for an unnamed, former employee, accused of tampering with company data. It was an attempt to shift attention away from the scandal. Kunal frowned as he read the report. "They're trying to make you the scapegoat." Amara sighed. "I knew this would happen. I don't care about the lies. I just want the truth to stand." The next morning, she woke to messages from strangers thanking her anonymously. "You gave us hope," one said. Another wrote, "We need more people like you in this country." For the first time, Amara realized her voice mattered. Days later, the police raided Oasis Holdings headquarters. The finance director, Tund Afolabi, was arrested. Benga disappeared for his own safety. Chief Adeyemi was summoned for questioning, his face plastered on every news channel. As Amara watched the coverage on a small television in the shelter, she felt a quiet satisfaction. Justice wasn't complete yet, but the cracks had begun to show. She whispered to herself, "Numbers don't lie. People do." That night, she walked outside and looked at the skyline of Lagos. For the first time in months, she wasn't just surviving. She was standing for something bigger than herself. Her courage had started something no one could stop. The scandal at Oasis Holdings spread like wildfire across Nigeria. Every television station, newspaper, and social media platform carried the story. People couldn't believe that a company that claimed to empower communities had stolen millions meant for widows, orphans, and education projects. Chief Kola Adeyemi, once admired as a self-made businessman and philanthropist, became a national disgrace overnight. Cameras followed him everywhere. Protesters gathered outside his mansion, holding signs that read, "Return our money," and "Justice for the poor." But inside the chaos, danger was growing. Amara stayed hidden for several days after the story broke. Kunal had warned her not to return to her old neighborhood. "These people have power," he said. "They'll try to intimidate you, or worse. Corrupt men don't fall quietly." One night, as Amara returned to the shelter, she noticed a black car parked nearby with tinted windows. It wasn't moving, but the headlights flashed twice before switching off. She didn't wait to find out who was inside. She ran straight to her room and locked the door. The next morning, Kunal called her again. "You need to stay somewhere safer," he said. "I've arranged for you to stay with a friend until this cools down." Amara didn't argue. She packed her small bag, the same one she had carried since losing her apartment, and left the shelter before dawn. Meanwhile, the government launched an official investigation. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, seized Oasis Holdings' financial records. They froze the company's accounts and began tracing the missing money. As evidence mounted, Chief Adeyemi's allies started to abandon him. Tund Afolabi, the finance director, turned himself in and agreed to testify. He claimed that Adeyemi had ordered all the illegal transfers and promised him protection in return. When news of the confession broke, the entire country was stunned. In a small apartment miles away, Amara watched the news broadcast. The reporter's voice echoed through the room. Sources confirmed that whistleblower documents provided to the press played a key role in exposing the fraud at Oasis Holdings. Amara sat quietly, staring at the television. She had no desire for fame or recognition, but hearing those words filled her eyes with tears. Her suffering had not been in vain. A few days later, Kunal came to visit her. He looked exhausted but relieved. "It's over," he said. "They've arrested Chief Adeyemi." The police recovered several offshore accounts. The amount, over 2 billion naira. Amara's heart skipped. 2 billion? Yes, Kunal nodded. And it's all going public tomorrow. The president's office has ordered a full audit of every government contract linked to Oasis Holdings. Amara couldn't find words. All she could whisper was, "Thank God." But not everyone celebrated. That night, someone tried to break into the apartment where Amara was staying. The neighbors' barking dogs scared them away before they reached the door, but it was enough to remind her that the fight wasn't truly over. The next morning, Kunal reported the incident to the police and arranged for additional security. Still, Amara refused to run anymore. "I won't live in fear," she told him. "If we hide, they win." As the court proceedings began, the country followed every detail. The courtroom was packed with journalists, activists, and ordinary Nigerians eager to witness justice. Chief Adeyemi sat in silence while his lawyers argued that the reports were fabricated. But the documents, the bank records, and Afolabi's confession were undeniable. The judge ordered his remand in custody pending trial. Outside the courthouse, crowds cheered. Kunal's newspaper published a second story titled, "The Power of One Voice." It spoke about how a young woman, once dismissed and humiliated, had refused to stay silent and helped uncover one of the biggest corporate crimes in the country. Although her name wasn't mentioned, everyone began to talk about the mystery woman behind the exposure. At first, Amara didn't want anyone to know it was her. She didn't do it for recognition. But one evening, as she walked through the local market, she overheard two women talking. They said the whistleblower was a cleaner, one woman said. Imagine that. A cleaner caught all those thieves. The other woman replied, God works in strange ways. The poor will always rise when the truth is on their side. Amara smiled quietly and walked away. For the first time, she felt pride, not shame, in who she had become. Days later, Connell met her again, this time with good news. An NGO wants to hire you, he said. They read the reports and want you to help with financial accountability projects. They need someone honest. Amara couldn't believe it. Me? After everything? Connell smiled. Especially after everything. When she arrived at her new job a week later, she was greeted warmly by her new supervisor, a woman named Mrs. Adesuwa Ikanam, who said, You've seen the worst of corruption, my dear. Now come help us build something better. It felt like a new beginning. Meanwhile, the trial of Chief Adeyemi dragged on for months. His lawyers tried every trick, but the evidence was overwhelming. The public demanded justice, and the court finally found him guilty of embezzlement and fraud. The day the verdict was announced, Amara stood outside the courthouse. She didn't go inside. She didn't need to. She just stood among the crowd, watching the news reporters shout into their microphones. Chief Adeyemi was sentenced to 15 years in prison. The stolen funds were ordered to be returned to the government's social welfare programs. The crowd erupted in cheers, chanting, Justice! Justice for the people! Amara closed her eyes, tears falling down her face. It was finally over. The man who had humiliated her, the system that had ignored her, had finally faced the truth. She whispered quietly, My mother was right. Never let the world turn you cold. That night, for the first time in years, Amara slept peacefully. The rain that fell outside her window was gentle this time, not cruel. It was no longer the sound of loss. It was the sound of renewal. Months passed after the court's final ruling. The city of Lagos slowly moved on to new scandals and new headlines, but for Amara Okafor, life had finally found balance. She no longer woke up to fear or uncertainty. Every morning, she took a short bus ride to the small nonprofit office where she now worked. The sign outside read, The Foundation for Financial Integrity. Inside, she trained young accountants and auditors on how to detect fraud, teaching them that ethics mattered more than power. Her story had quietly inspired many, even though few knew she was the whistleblower who brought down one of the country's richest men. Sometimes, while explaining a lesson to her students, she would pause and smile. They would ask why, and she would simply say, Because numbers never lie. Only people do. Her life was simple but peaceful. She earned just enough to pay her rent and send a little money to her younger brother studying at university. She was no longer wealthy, but she was finally free. One warm afternoon, Amara attended a charity event organized by her foundation. It was held at a community center built with funds recovered from the Oasis Holdings scandal. Children played in the courtyard. Elderly women cooked jollof rice under colorful tents. As Amara helped serve food, an older woman approached her with a soft smile. My daughter, God bless you, she said. If not for that case, this center would not exist. People say a brave woman made it happen. I wish I could thank her one day. Amara smiled gently. You just did, Mama. The woman laughed and hugged her without realizing what she meant. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, Amara walked home through the quiet streets. The orange glow of the sunset reflected on the city's glass towers. She passed the same spot where she had once stood in the rain, holding her resume and begging for a chance. The sign for Oasis Holdings was gone. The building had been bought by another firm, and its new owners were repainting the walls. Workers passed her by without recognizing her. She stopped for a moment and looked up at the building that had once symbolized her humiliation. The memories came back. The rain, the rejection, the long nights of cleaning floors that weren't hers. But now, none of it hurt anymore. she whispered softly, everything broken can be rebuilt, even dignity. Just then, a black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, and to her surprise, she saw Chief Kola Adeyemi sitting inside. He looked older now, thinner, his once proud eyes hollow. The guards who used to surround him were gone. He stared at her for a moment, then said quietly, "You destroyed me." Amara met his gaze calmly. "No, Chief. You destroyed yourself. I just revealed the truth." He said nothing more. The window rolled up, and the car drove away slowly. Amara didn't move for a while. She watched the car disappear into traffic and felt no hatred, no triumph, only peace. The next morning, she went to work as usual. Her boss, Mrs. Adesawa, called her into the office. "There's something I want you to see," she said. She handed Amara a newspaper. On the front page was an article titled, "From Cleaner to Changemaker, The Woman Behind the Whistle." Her story was finally public. The article revealed how her courage had led to national reform and stricter anti-corruption policies. The journalist, Kunal, had written it himself. At first, Amara felt exposed, but as she read through the words, she realized it wasn't about fame, it was about truth. For truth. That weekend, she received dozens of letters from young women across Nigeria. Some were students, some single mothers, all saying the same thing: "Your story gave me hope." She replied to each one personally. At the next foundation meeting, she spoke to her team with quiet strength. "We can't change the whole world overnight," she said, "but we can be the reason one person believes that honesty still matters. That's enough." They nodded, inspired by her humility. That evening, Amara stood by the seaside, watching waves crash gently against the rocks. The wind carried the scent of salt and renewal. She remembered her mother's voice, the same soft words that had kept her alive when everything else had fallen apart. "Don't let the world turn you cold." She smiled and whispered back, "I didn't, Mama. I kept my promise." The sun dipped below the horizon, turning the sky gold and purple. The light returned, not just to the city, but to her heart. Her story wasn't about revenge. It was about redemption. A reminder that courage and kindness are stronger than corruption and greed. In the end, Amara Okafor didn't just expose a crime. She proved that dignity, once lost, can rise again. Final moral reflection. Integrity is not about wealth or position. It's about doing what's right, even when no one is watching. And sometimes, one honest voice is enough to change an entire nation.